Okay, date is,
Okay, the meeting of the Petersburg Borough Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, April 8th, 2014 is now called to order. Will the clerk read the roll?
Susan Thomason.
Here.
Ron Bushman.
He's no longer on the board, on the commission.
Uh-huh. Okay, James Demko, yay. David Kessinger.
Here.
Donna Mahoit Laban.
Present.
Otis Marsh.
Absent.
Chris Fry.
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to oath of office, election of officers prior to approving the agenda.
Yes, that just should be election of officer, and there's no oath yet, but we need what, a vice clerk?
Okay.
Vice clerk.
A vice chair, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
We used to have a vice
Yeah.
clerk, but
Do we have any volunteers or nominations?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, I nominate Chris.
I second that.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion that we have Chris Fry as our vice chair? Any discussion? Okay, those in favor signify.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. We now have a vice chair and Chris Fry. Okay, approval, item 3, approval of the previous meeting minutes, the minutes of December 10th, 2013, and there are corrections. Okay, let's see where I have them. It's on the motion for the lots on Arnest Drive, both 3 and 4. It says we approved them as industrial lots, but we did not. We approved them as commercial 2 lots. So we need that correction in the minutes. On the minutes, just had them too somewhere. Had it all organized prior to the meeting.
it's under 8A, B, and C.
Thank you, B and C.
It should be a recommendation for commercial 2 instead of industrial.
On both those motions, and I think, anybody else have any corrections or additions to the minutes for December 10th, 2013? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I so move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as corrected for December 10th, 2013, meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we are on to item 4, amendment and approval of the agenda, and we have an amendment by Rick Braun under new business, with the under
Yes.
new business. So it will be 10A.
Excuse me, there is a 10A,
Oh,
but we could do it
sorry.
in 10C.
10C. Go on to the next one. And that is the Merrily Jones subdivision. Okay, are there any other amendments or additions to the agenda? All right, do we have a motion to approve of our agenda as added to?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda with the additional item of 10C, Merrily Jones subdivision. Those in favor signify.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. We have an amended agenda. 5, brings us to 5, a public hearing.
None?
None. On to 6, visitors' views related to agenda items. Anyone here have visitors' views related to agenda items?
I can
And-
speak to
Yes, state your
First
name.
Bank and Merrily Jones subdivisions.
Okay. Would you like to do that? And,
When the time comes.
all right, thanks. We'll move on to 7, visitors unrelated to agenda items. This would be a good time for Polly Lee's.
Polly
Item.
wanted me to pose the question.
Okay, would you just state your name for the
Oh, sorry,
record?
I'm Laurel McCullough. And Polly wanted me to pose the question, would it be possible to request the establishment of a historic preservation commission at this meeting rather than waiting for the comprehensive planning committee to complete its work in 2 years?
Okay, do you want anyone to speak to that? Dave?
I'd like to ask Polly and Leo if they could explain a little bit more about that.
Well, there was a historic committee. I don't know if the assembly has authorized that yet. It'd be more of an assembly action than us. We wanted to change the zoning. There's 3 methods to do that. You can get at least half of the property owners to sign a petition in favor of it. You can bring it to the planning commission and you can initiate the process by your own account, or take it to the assembly and they can initiate it on their own account. It also could be looked at during the comprehensive plan process, which is moving forward and should start this fall. So that's what I can tell you.
Did you hear that?
No,
Would you mind repeating that?
but I would
Is this
like
to
to
make the
say,
building historical?
that, since we become interested in the Historic and Preservation Commission, the concept, I've talked to loads of people, over 50 at least, and I did keep a list of their names. But at any rate, when I talk about it, they are very, very interested. And in the process, we've interviewed. I hope this is not totally inappropriate to what you have said, but I guess I couldn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
I can repeat it.
But, at any rate, we have interviewed Jane Smith and Liz Cabrera, and who are more knowledgeable about these things than we have been. And we're aware that there was an effort at establishing a historical and preservation commission some time ago, some years ago. And I think I had my head buried in the sand at the time. I wasn't even aware of that, but it didn't fly. And since then, it seems like the attitude and forward-looking ability of people in Petersburg, our whole atmosphere of thought has kind of reached out and broadened. And it may be time now to we're 104 years old by historical measures, by state measures of the city. And maybe we're mature enough now to step into the business of saving our history and preserving our artifacts from ancient times. This was a site for fish traps right in Hammer Slough. And of course, the areas that would be most obvious for notice would be the Hammer Slough area and the Stingley Alley area. And those designations would need to be made by people on the commission who would study the various aspects that are needed. There's all kinds of good guidance from the state on this sort of thing. And anyway, we're continuing to inquire and learn lots more about it. But in the process, we're thinking that if the comprehensive plan, it was suggested that we write a letter to comprehensive plan and request that they include a historic and conservation committee or commission, all different things I guess. Anyway, and now that we learn that that's not going to really be completed for some time, maybe up to 2 years, is that correct?
That's a possibility.
Yes, can you hear
Wanna
this
speak
now?
to that?
Yeah.
Does this work?
Don't hold it that way. It's put on your chest like you were on TV. Turn it
Okay.
over
How's that?
and hold it on the bottom.
Okay. Does that work?
You got it.
Okay. The comprehensive plan, the Borough Assembly said to move forward with the comprehensive plan. And we are hoping to advertise and start in the fall. Hopefully to wrap up by summer.
Leo, I have to stop you, dear. My hearing is so bad, I'm not getting it, and it's just what happens sometimes. Laurel will hear,
Okay,
so complete your statement.
and they said to move forward with the plan. The hope is to start the process in the fall and complete by the end of spring. That's the goal. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay, Laurel, do you mind the repeat of the 4 different ways that a historic preservation district can be incorporated into the plan or presented that Leo went over? Do you want them again?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I
Can you-
thought so.
Have them in writing.
A repeat. I don't blame you. It's hard to get it all in one fell swoop.
I have a question. It's just a lot of times historical districts have, I've seen them do different things, like up north and stuff like this. Is this where you're wanting to leave the property where it has to stay a certain way and it's limited for,
That's actually where I come in, because as a property owner in the area,
uh-huh,
I would like to see it be designated historic because it's really interesting, it has a lot of history. I'm forever answering questions from people about it. But also, as a property owner, I want to make sure that it's not so prohibitive on the zoning that we can't do anything with our property.
yeah, because sometimes it's where
There's a
people
middle
have
ground.
painting codes, they have
Right.
alterations, they have to keep things. And that's what I get kind of concerned about. And the other thing I'm kind of concerned about is, you know, there's the old city of Petersburg, which is now Service Area 1, which is one community. And then we have other communities who have different histories, not just Service Area 1's history. So I'm just curious, are you going to have this just for Service Area 1, or are you going to hit the other communities individually? What's,
That hadn't come up with what Polly has been
Okay.
researching. And
We
like-
have no
like I s-
intention to apply zoning outside of service area.
okay, so this historical thing would only be for Service Area 1, it's not for the whole borough at wide?
As far as I know.
Okay,
And
that's what I was
like-
curious about.
Like I said, my interest was that you guys would find possibly a middle ground if there was any zoning between protection of the character of the neighborhood.
Right.
But not prohibiting us from new construction or remodels.
Hammer Slough does have its own special zoning classification, single family 2, which has got to be built on pilings. No metal siding shall be allowed. And the height can't exceed 20 feet. So, and the pitch of the roof has to be at least 412. So there are special designations for just the side of the slope. To change zoning, or to create a new zone, the planning commission could recommend to the borough assembly. They are responsible for zoning.
You know,
Go ahead, Polly, and then Rick Braun.
I realize that there's a limited time we can spend on this one subject because you have many others. But the Historic and Preservation Committee would draw up with lots of local input. It could not be done like that. It would need a lot of conversations in the community as to the advantages and the disadvantages, the opportunities, and so on. And so at this time, we cannot make definite statements about what it would be. The commission would need to be need to draw it up. We're empowered, the local government is empowered by the state to do so. There are several other cities in Alaska have done this, and so we're not, inventing the wheel. I think what we need to know is what would be the most efficient way to begin establishing this rather than wait for the finalization of the plan. Whether the city council should appoint it on the recommendation of planning and zoning, or if they would do it independently. I don't know that. Maybe we need to talk to the city manager about that.
Probably so.
Yeah.
When you ask for a rezoning, you're supposed to find in the comprehensive plan where this would meet its objectives. And I don't think it's in the old plan. but it certainly could be investigated in the new plan.
So, Leo, do you want to mention those 4 ways again, and then Walt can put them down, and
Okay.
then we can,
There's 3 ways, oh, that's fine, there's 3 ways you can initiate rezoning.
Did you get my thing?
Okay.
One is by the Borough Assembly can initiate it by its own motion.
Okay.
The Planning Commission can initiate it on its own motion. Or you can submit a petition signed by at least 50%
In that area.
Property
of the
owners.
property owners in that area, yeah.
and they would submit the petition to the Borough Assembly?
It would
or
come here,
It would
the
come to the
Planning
Planning
Commission.
and Zoning first, and Commission. Does that give you an answer to where to progress next? Where you might be likely to put your energies
I think it does, yes.
into the,
What'd she say?
She asked if that gave us an idea of where to progress.
It does, and thank you so much. You've been very patient with my problem, and thank you, Laurel. And Leo.
One last thing, if you email me, or give me your email, I can get all the stuff in writing right out of the code for you.
Miss, I was saying, thanks for clarifying about the zoning thing. I was just
Yes.
curious of how far their intent was, because there's fox farms that aren't part of Service Area 1.
Oh.
There's fish things outside Service Area 1.
What Polly's concerned with right now is the Hammerslough and Singley Alley.
So just Service Area 1.
Just that.
And we promised people outside of Service Area 1, if they didn't want zoning, we weren't. gonna
Right, that's why I
impose it.
wanted to make sure what,
Oh,
they're not,
okay, I got
I
it.
just want to make sure they're not thinking it's going to save the fox farms or Papke's Landings or other historical areas outside. Okay,
What Polly's focusing on right now is basically the area
Okay.
with Hammerslough and Singley.
thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
There is something I'd like to add. My wife is working right now on a grant, actually, with Liz Cabrera from Economic Development for next year for her students to go around and record a lot of this history on the various buildings throughout the borough. And what they want to do is incorporate this with augmented reality. So you can use an app on a phone and scroll around, and when it locks in on a building with the picture, it'll pull up the history of that building. So, and they want to do this as something that is an ongoing project, so that the students every year are adding new information.
Like the old fox
Throughout the
farms
borough,
and,
yeah.
okay.
So they'll pick an area, they'll work on that area, and they'll add the buildings in. So this is something that she's working on, and I just thought something along the lines of what you're talking about.
Thank you.
yes.
Does that give you a
Thank
start?
you.
That does, yes.
And-
That's a good start.
I'm thinking this does need to be on the ground level of the comprehensive plan in some
Okay.
way. So I would think taking it to a letter to the Borough Assembly first might be the best option. With a petition would be even stronger.
Thank you.
That's just a personal thought. Dave?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, particularly after what we saw happened with
Yesterday.
yesterday. That you know the assembly seems to want to have their hands in on this,
Yes.
and so I think we could say yes, this might be a good idea, but I think anything that we do can be overturned by the assembly. So I think when you get something more concrete, we could give a recommendation to the assembly. But I think if you want to speed up the process, I would think probably just going straight to the assembly might be a better idea.
Rick, Ron?
In the interest of getting things done in a hurry, if there's something that's gonna happen in the slough and we need to do something in a hurry, one thing that the assembly could do would be to tweak the current zoning conditions for the slough area, for Hammer Slough. You wouldn't need to redefine the areas, which would take quite a bit. All you would need to do is add, like, maybe in addition to
Amendment.
metal siding, vinyl siding, or some other things that would really change the design parameters for a new construction in the slough.
Like
Right.
stipulating should be within the
Yeah.
character of the
Yeah.
existing.
There's a
buildings,
lot of
something like that.
concern about, by the people that own areas, own property in the area, that unrealistic requirements will be made of them. And that's not necessary at all. That is, it happens places. I was talking to a person the other day who was talking about Port Townsend, and they have, to make up for their loss in other revenues from other sources, they're emphasizing tourism to the point that they're requiring property owners in certain areas to unbelievable standards.
Yeah.
And in some places, when people need to upgrade their homes to put in more modern materials, requirement, or maybe they have to put in precisely what was there before. Well, that's unrealistic, and we don't need to go to that extent,
Yeah.
that extreme, it would be a mistake. So I think there's a lot of education about, and of course, the devil's in the details and how this code is
Right.
written. Could be written by local people. The state offers a lot of assistance in this, and it isn't like we're going for some national or state standard. We're going for a local, something that suits our community, and hopefully would be written by people who are a well-balanced representation of our community. Did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other comments on the idea, or do you feel you have a direction to go now?
Say again, so
You feel like you have an answer about a direction to proceed?
do we?
Do we?
I think this is pretty clear.
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
and
Thank
for
you
your
for
Thanks.
coming.
I'm gonna write down my number.
Appreciate it.
772-4533, extension 21.
And what's your email?
It's two L's, UCZAK, Petersburg AK, .gov.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed to agenda item 8, report of staff members on comprehensive plan.
Well, the Borough Assembly reviewed the comprehensive plan proposal that's in your packet. 5 members present said we should proceed. They'd like to prioritize the items, because there's quite a list there, with the goal of starting in the spring, starting in the fall,
Thank you.
and wrapping it up by the end of spring. It could drag out if it goes past spring while everybody goes fishing, or many people, so it might take a little longer than that. They have a recommendation in there that 2 planning commission members are involved, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think part of the discussion will be zoning outside of Service Area 1. There were some people that were vocally against it, but it's a question that should be asked. A lot of times the people that say the most don't represent the majority. And I do get calls about problems with neighbors that I had no idea my neighbor was going to do this right next to my house. And so it's a question that should be asked. Whether or not people are ready for that, we'll find that out. That's much like this proposal. If people are, it's a good way to judge if a majority of the people want something. Because there will be surveys and polls, and it's just a better indication, because there's so much public involvement. When we did the last one, we had this room packed out on Saturday for, 8 hours, as I remember, and they even carried it on the radio, so there were a number of meetings. That's a great process, but sometimes you can, people assume everybody feels like they do, but that isn't necessarily true. So
That's where a survey would come in good, because some people
Yeah.
don't want to speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see it was all 5 members that were present voted to continue. The last one didn't go quite that well, so, last proposal.
Good, good. So be thinking about if you want to serve on the comprehensive plan.
I did contact Karen McCullough. She had talked to me, she would love to be involved in the process.
Great.
I even invited her to apply for a seat on the commission, but she wasn't interested in that, but she would serve on the subcommittee.
I'm David Beebe, and I just had some, the whole reason I came here was because the comprehensive plan, would you be up for entertaining questions in that regards?
Certainly.
Okay. What's the scope of it? Is it to the borough boundaries? Or?
It's the full borough.
Okay. So I could see where it obviously will be extending well beyond Service Area 1.
With the thing, well, the comprehensive plan, yes, because we'll be looking at what facilities are needed outside of Service Area 1. Whether it be dock repairs, one that comes to mind. I just found out, I'm seeing docks I didn't even know were there that are being used, but they're within the borough now, and I think the state is getting ready to ask the borough to take over 3 docks. Baptiste, I guess Coopernoff dock is in bad shape, getting there, but they aren't famous for their maintenance, and then there's one up by Halkin Bay, I think it is.
Entrance Island.
Entrance Island, thank you. So it'd be things like that. What kind of facilities should the borough be planning for?
Point Agassiz.
Yeah, there's one that I saw there. It was not much of a dock, but it's well used.
So basically, for the listeners, the comprehensive plan is the projects which are the taxation will be based on for the whole borough?
Comprehensive plan is a master plan for the
For-
city.
For the borough.
For the
For the
borough.
borough, thank you.
Correct. So it's not just for service area.
Old habits.
I've talked to some people and they think the comprehensive plan is just for service area 1. They don't comprehend that it's for the whole borough, and people need to understand that.
And it's
have
wonderful when
input.
you're asked for grant funding, if you can reference the comprehensive plan and how public the process was. It's much easier to validate your claim than having to get a majority of whatever assemblies in place at the time, because
Right.
those change. But people's
Have
opinions,
people-
if
have the
it's
voice
shown
now.
there's a dramatic need for something, and you have a current comp plan, makes your grant writing a much easier process.
Okay,
So was
questions?
there any, I mean, is there a prescribed makeup of the committee? In other words, is perhaps a representation from the state of Kupreanof part of that? Or?
Well, let's
We have
add that somewhere.
Yeah,
Like how many people are on the committee, how many are part of service area 1, how many from Point Agassiz, how much from different ones, so they all have some type of, like the city of Kupreanof having somebody. Would be quite well to do to have,
That would be a good
Representation.
idea.
that'd be a great idea.
the city should get involved with it.
Maybe we can ask, the email I have is from Steve Giesbrecht, and he lists department heads, Liz Cabrera, Gloria Mullen, Leo Luzak, Cindy Lakadakis, 2 appointed members from the assembly, and Stephen Giesbrecht. So maybe we can talk to him about 2 things, a historic district representative, and you would like a Kupreanof?
Yeah.
Well, there's the city of Kupreanof, and then there's the people outside, and they're completely different demographics of people, and there's people over at Point Agassiz that have different. What my next question is that a limited number of people that they've set aside if can be a part of this or subcommittee or?
I don't think we've
think
gotten
so.
there yet.
Yeah,
Okay, I was
But
just
think
curious.
if there was interest that people
Set.
would,
Right.
Well, I don't
Would you-
think it'd have to be necessarily just from Kupreanof, but I
Yeah.
think anybody who submitted a letter of interest.
Right,
would be
anybody on the,
considered.
yeah. Because it would be nice, the way I look at it, is so they have their say then, instead of after everybody form it and say, well, we didn't have
Representation
reputation.
from our
So the way
end.
I look at it is, put it out there. Get rid of.
The last comp plan, we also had focus groups where we identified specific people, and they met to look at problems and ideas, and I think everybody would be welcome that expressed an interest.
So I guess I missed something. So we're not going to do the comprehensive plan. We're going to put 2 members on another board for the comprehensive plan, or I thought we were doing the comprehensive plan and the city council was appointing 2 members to work
It
with
is
us?
the responsibility of the planning commission.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
The Borough Assembly approves it, hopefully, but it's the responsibility of the planning commission. Now, whether the planning commission wants to have a subcommittee do it, or all the members do it, that's a decision that
So-
should be made at some point.
The list of people that you named there, so they are the comprehensive plan group, or,
There is no group set aside yet.
okay, so I was
It's a
just curious.
recommendation.
For those people to be the comprehensive plan?
Right. that
No, this
be
is just who's
inclusive.
going to submit. For this group, the department heads that is going to go through the old plan and
Okay, got
update the
it.
bread and butter,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So they're
things
just,
have
they're just,
changed.
they're just updating, they're
Yeah.
not the, okay.
How many boat stalls are there today? What's the capacity of the water plant? The bread and butter stuff, when it gets to the goals, objectives, and all that, it would be the planning commission. And the last time, the whole commission sat through many, many meetings, but we had a contentious zoning issue of a big tract of land, and so this will be more, when they got done with the zoning thing, the commission just said, that's it, we've had it. But this will be more of goals and objectives with, we want to get a firm timeline, how we approach it, who's responsible to see it come into fruition, and then there would be great, large meetings with the public, possibly focus groups.
Dave?
Well, yeah, no, I understand all that, but I guess when I read what Steve sent, it says, "I'll ask the Assembly appoint 2 members of their body to directly participate in the evaluation and submit of proposals and the planning process, which will take place throughout the remainder of 2014 and in 2015.
Yes, that was suggested, that we get 2 members of the Assembly,
Yeah, that's a good
so
idea.
they can report and have
Right.
that it isn't just sprung on them
Yeah.
in 9 months. that
I'm
it's like
willing
we're-
to be part of it.
Well,
I'm willing to be part of it.
I guess my confusion is, I thought that's what was the function of planning and zoning, was to do the comprehensive plan. And I agree, it would be a good idea if we had a lot of participation from other entities in the community and specifically for the council. But if the council wants to appoint a different ad hoc committee to do the comprehensive plan independent from the planning and zoning commission, then I guess I need that, I guess that's my question.
Yeah, because
What do they want to do?
to me, this is kind of confusing when
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
it was under us, when some people were already being appointed when it was supposed to be here.
And the
Right.
way I read it, it does say planning committee for this project repeatedly, planning committee.
Committee.
So I'm not sure the definition of the planning committee
Committee
for
is.
this project.
Yeah, because when I saw this
It's
kind of
reported
confused me
5
because I didn't
times.
know they were part of planning and zoning.
I will check on this and
Would you
report
Thank
back
you.
please?
via email if that works for everybody.
That
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
guess
when I read it.
if we're not going to do the comprehensive plan, and they're going to appoint another committee, that's fine, but, you know, I don't want to do a lot of work on the comprehensive plan,
When it's
and
already,
then turn around and they're just going to, we're going to be doing a parallel process, I guess.
or are
Gotcha.
these people going to be, because see, when I got this, I was curious if this was already being set, or are these people giving us recommendation and then we deal with it? That's what I
Yeah.
was curious about.
Yeah, so,
And I'm not sure we have that answer just yet.
yeah.
In right, what
Thank
we
you.
have is a planning committee, and I'm not sure we had the definition of that planning committee as listed in the
Okay,
email
because
before.
I definitely want to be part of the comprehensive plan. so.
Okay. So, when you meet with Steve, I guess this all needs to be clarified.
Will do.
Thank you.
And can we have your name for the record, your first and last name, so that we have a point of contact? You got it? Great, great. Oh, you're on the ball over there, Karen. Way on the ball. Okay, is that pretty much your report?
That is it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to 9. On the agenda, unfinished business, A, PZ 14-04, consideration of a request from Philip and Sandy Meeks for a variance of the front and side setback requirements to allow the construction of a carport 5 feet from the front property line and 10 feet from the side property line on tract B2 of the Lighthouse subdivision parcel 1001-872.03, located at 110 Somerset Lane. This is a slight modification of the variance granted on December 10th, 2013. Let's go back in time. And there's our, I think you have, all have that attachment. And- Yes, Leo.
I talked to Sandy Meeks. She was pretty busy, but if there's a concern, she could come at the next meeting. The commission did grant a variance, I think it was for 10 feet. And if you look at that land out there, there's a little place you can build and it just goes straight up.
Right.
It's a classic example of why you ask for a variance, so you can get some use out of it.
Well, that's why I
Right.
recommended that we needed to do that after looking at it. And I talked to them and they were quite for it.
Yeah, when I looked at it, it seemed like there's plenty of room for the road there, and there's not much down the road anyway, just one other lot, so I don't see it being an issue in the future.
Right. Yeah, because when I saw the 25, I asked them why they weren't going smaller,
Yeah.
and they,
And then I think we contacted the adjacent lot owner, and they didn't have any objections to it too, or they were notified, right?
They were
I-
notified on the
Okay.
first one.
yeah, because I
Okay.
talked to them and they worked
Okay.
there and they had no problem. I motion that we go for it. I think it's,
Seems reasonable.
yeah, I think it's very, because I've seen it and I'm very much for it.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to allow for the construction of a carport 5 feet from the property line and 10 feet from the side property line, front property line, 10 feet from the side property line on tract B2 of the Lighthouse subdivision parcels 1001872.03, located at 110 Somerset Lane. Is there any more discussion? Then we'll call for the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? The motion carries. We're on to 10A. PZ 14-05, acceptance of and scheduling of a public hearing for a request from First Bank for a replat subdivision of lots 2, 3, and a portion of lot 4 of Tidelands Addition subdivision of ATS 9, and a portion of lots 1, 2, and 3 of block 25 of USS 1252 and tract A of the Hammer and Wecon subdivision. So, that's new business. Is this
You know when our next meeting is, Karen?
the first reading?
This will just be scheduling the public hearing.
Okay, scheduling the public
As we
hearing.
consider it the next meeting.
May,
That would be May 13th.
will you be around?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I should meet.
Should we? Donna?
I'm just laughing. They were all pulling our phones. I'm trying not to laugh,
I didn't
okay?
even know I had a calendar on my phone. I'm learning something.
What's that? You did say the 13th, right? Yes, yes,
So I'll be
7?
here.
yes, I'll be here.
Fifth,
I'm,
so I'll be here.
I was trying not to laugh, okay?
That's okay. So do we have a motion for the acceptance and scheduling of a public hearing request for First Bank
I
for the next meeting?
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So May 13th, 2014, we'll have the scheduled public hearing for the request from First Bank for a replat subdivision. 10B, 14-40, the Steve Berry Scow Bay lease proposal, which is about 35 pages of our
I
packet
copied
this
you with
time.
the lease, but I
you
didn't
like
get
to
the
address
minutes
that?
from the planning and zoning, or from the harbor board. Traditionally, P and Z, that's harbor property and has just deferred to what, you know, if they want to okay it, that's fine with planning and zoning, is the way it usually goes. And I
Okay.
can read their
Do you have a
paragraph.
short version of
Yes.
and this is what the Harbor Board already approved, and we're just,
On February 7th,
Thank
yes. Steve Berry Scow Bay lease proposal. Mr. Berry presented his proposal as outlined in the application for a lease of approximately 3,000 square feet of the Scow Bay turnaround property adjacent to Island Ventures' existing lease. That's John Marcus. Mr. Berry addressed numerous questions and verbally agreed to follow the same protocol that is specified in the Island Ventures lease. For example, use of properly sanctioned best management practices. Mr. Berry introduced a drawing of a non-permanent building he plans to construct to operate in. The board questioned his utility needs, and Berry explained that by working with John Merkus, his short-term power needs could be met by using one of the existing power pedestals. Water and sewer needs are not an immediate need. Though if the borough planned any upgrades, Mr. Berry would appreciate the service. John Merkus spoke in support of the project and agreed to assist Mr. Berry with his power needs. By unanimous vote, the board recommended the borough move the Steve Berry lease application forward, following the outlines established by the Island Venture lease.
I have a question about it, though. Because it's a very good thing there. The only thing when Mergus is there, he, launches his boats, and he's out of there. But this other venture here, people are going to be there at longer terms. Are they going to have a porta potty there or something?
I did contact Steve Berry.
Right.
He's out herring pounding. He said if there's any questions, he's willing to wait till the next planning commission meeting
Okay.
and come and answer.
That's my only concern.
So do we want to table this for the next meeting when questions can be answered, or
I don't think we're supposed to use the word table anymore. Postpone, I believe, is
Postpone?
the correct word.
That's my
Well, wouldn't
only
be the-
question.
Wouldn't that be the time to ask the questions?
What's that?
Wouldn't be that the time? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be the time to ask the questions?
Questions, right.
Yeah, why postpone? Well, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's my only, everything else that's in the lease there has to be changed from city to borough, I'm assuming. But there are some things that when they change, they're working on the rewriting everything. Are they going to alter anything else besides the word borough? Because I did look at some of the old sections, and they may not be the same when it goes to borough. That's the only thing I was questioning. And then two, it was just the outhouse or,
facilities?
yeah, because it's longer than John is.
So the harbor board already approved it as stated, or just
Yes, submitted,
no,
yes.
as submitted? So can we still make minor recommendations
That could be part of
at the
the motion if someone wanted to do that.
Someone wants to make a motion. Okay, do we have a motion to postpone for questions and minor adjustments?
That's the only adjustment that I see, is needing a porta potty. Because they're going to be there painting and doing stuff, and they're not at short term.
So do we have a motion?
What's that?
I'd agree.
I make a motion?
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Okay, it's been motion and seconded that the Steve Berry Scow Bay lease proposal be postponed for discussion until the next planning and zoning commission meeting for minor recommendation adjustments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alrighty, that brings us to 10C, under new business, the Merrily Jones subdivision. Would you like to speak to that, Mr.
Oh,
Ball?
sure,
Rick?
it's very simple subdivision. It's actually the official name for it's a replat. We're just moving this line to here. Currently, Merrily owns both these lots, and the lot line between 1 and 2 is right here. And so she wants to move the line to here because she's going to build a new house here and sell this place. Very simple. So, but it still needs a public hearing.
These big lots,
Hmm?
are these big lots?
14,000, 15,000.
So there's enough there for,
So when it's done, it's going to be 117 by basically 113 to 120
Yeah,
on
that's
that small
with-
lot.
Yeah, that doesn't require a variance or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's all within the code.
is that a creek or a driveway?
This is
That's a
this is a riprap fill here.
So there's water that flows through there, or what?
There's
Okay.
kind of a little, maybe a trickle once in a while coming through here. And that's kind of, the property line's kind of down in this gully between the two building sites.
And all the auxiliary buildings I see are 10 feet from the property line. the way
Well,
it's-
this one's 10,
Right.
this one's 10, this one's in the right of way. These will be gone,
Okay.
so, yeah.
That cleans it up nicely.
And I assume if we have a public hearing, then any of the neighbors will have
Yeah,
an opportunity
everybody
to, everybody will be notified.
Yep, exactly.
Yep, it's within 600 feet.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve
Schedule.
scheduling for
I
a public
second
hearing.
that. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to schedule acceptance of a scheduled public hearing for the request from Marilee Jones subdivision to replat lots 1 and 2, block 2 of the Frederick Sound, Alaska subdivision. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, are there any discussion items? Agenda item 11? Yes, Dave?
Yes, the only thing that I was disappointed with the rezoning process was that it wasn't made abundantly clear that we had this process going on for, what, about 6 months? And
Or 2
everybody,
years.
yeah, and everybody in that subdivision was notified of this. And I would have had a different opinion if Gary had maybe jumped into the fray earlier in the process instead of at the end of the process. And I think we just need to make it really clear to people in the future that it's better for them to get involved at the front end of the process instead of the tail end of the process, and then maybe can eliminate the hassle that the assembly had to go through, because that's kind of our job. And when issues like that come up, then it kind of makes us superfluous. And then it
Yes.
leaves a lot of bad feelings with other people. And then listening to the assembly meeting, they didn't have, obviously, in the short time that they had to deal with the issue, they didn't have all the back history of it.
A week ago, at the other assembly meeting, what was that date? I had given them a short verbal
Yeah, I heard that. And that was quite good, but,
of historical viewpoint.
right.
But yes, I think if we had gone further back into the history.
Yeah, I think if they had more history, because it looked on our character that we weren't doing anything.
Well, I was
He
kind
was
of
there with.
concerned about it because of the fact that nobody was at our meetings when we had our public hearing.
Right.
That they had concerns, we tried to address those concerns. And then I thought we had everything resolved.
Well, we did.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
because we didn't have anybody that came to any of our meetings that had an objection to it. And, I mean, I think my one qualification was, well, if everybody's okay with this, that's gonna be affected by this, I don't have a problem with it. Well, obviously, there were some people that did have some issues with it, and it was unfortunate that they didn't care to participate in the start of the process until the end of it.
At the 11th hour, so to
Right.
speak. And that was,
So I will say that on any other rezoning, I will oppose it unless the council weighs in on it ahead of time, unless we have direction from council, because otherwise, there's no point in us spending our time and doing all this stuff unless we get clear instructions from the assembly on what they want us to do. Because if they want us to do this process, we're happy to do it. But it wastes their time, it wastes our time if we duplicate the process, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
absolutely correct. And I do think it brought forth one idea that needs to be in the comprehensive plan, and we were discussing this a little bit earlier, in the lack of commercial 2 property available in the borough. Because when Leo showed me the map, it's basically shoreline, tidewater line that's commercial 2, and then there's one chunk that is inaccessible. without a road.
Yeah.
And that's all the commercial two
Well, and-
available.
Commercial in general, and when you look at the map, there's a fair amount of industrial and there's
Yeah.
a fair amount of residential, but there's very
Not
little commercial.
Right.
And when you submit an application to rezone, you're supposed to cite where in the comprehensive plan there's a need for this zoning.
So that,
Well, when you're using a real comprehensive plan, it's hard to do, but that would be a more benefit.
Well, and when we're dealing with the comprehensive plan that what, is 15 years old now?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, needs change in a community, you know, particularly over 15 years of time, a lot's happened. And, you know, so that's why it would be good to have a comprehensive plan that identified, you know, and that's one thing we need to have people, because I listened to the meeting, and, you know, it sounded like and I know there is a need for storage property in the town, you know, and most people, they don't want in their residential areas, they don't want to have, you know, industrial type storage stuff. I understand that, but we need to make it so people can do it in town, so it works for everybody, you know, because I know a few years ago, I tried to buy some property to do some things with, and shoot, I ended up just going outside of the then city limits because there wasn't any restrictions out there, you know.
Yes.
And
I do think there's some good out of the whole process in that it
It's
brought
it's
up
a learning
lack
curve.
of commercial two and commercial one property within the borough itself. And those are needs from businesses.
Mhm.
Business development needs to think about that in the future.
Well, my question too was the notification process. I mean, everybody in that subdivision received a letter. You know, we
Well,
had
everybody within 600 feet.
within
Correct.
600 feet. And was Gary he's not within 600 feet, he's outside of that.
Who is?
Gary, where his property's at, it's past 600 feet.
I thought it was within 600 feet.
Yeah, I'm not for sure.
Who's Gary?
Albeck. Oh, not Gary Albeck.
was he a
Joe
projector?
Alberti?
Yeah,
Joe
yeah,
Alberti.
Birdie,
Joe
yeah, sorry.
Alberti probably received a letter, but he talked to me before the meeting. He was well aware of it because we put the ad in the paper, and I think he's within 600 feet. I don't have that with me.
Okay, so he was
He was aware of it.
He was aware of it. Okay, so he just didn't participate in the process ahead of
He
time.
said he had a conference call or something and couldn't make the meeting.
Yeah, but we talked about this like,
Over multiple
But he-
meetings.
over multiple
He
meetings.
could have put a letter in, because it's
Yeah.
like for me, when I went to go look
I
at the property.
suggested he put a letter in.
Correct.
Okay,
Because
so-
I walked,
Thank you,
I
yeah.
walked,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what needed to be done.
Yeah.
It was just, because I walked the area and talked to some of the neighbors, and that's my time.
So
Yes,
it wasn't
I've been out
anything that
there
we did
several
as a
times.
commission that we didn't do it, you know, we didn't do it, we did our due diligence to make sure everybody was notified.
A lot of
Correct.
times people are hoping not to get involved, but then they
Right.
want a particular outcome. So it does make it difficult if you don't put your feelings on the record.
Right.
Um,
I think we did well with what we were given. It was
With
just,
the
it wasn't until
knowledge.
after the fact that there was people who didn't felt we did our job, and I said, you know, we did with what was here, what we were presented, the people who came, and many of us walked and talked with the neighbors.
Absolutely.
And so I feel very confident that we did our job correctly.
If you want my opinion, I think the commission did an excellent job. There's lots of time devoted to this. That's why the planning commissions are better dealing with this. You get everybody you can involved. You spend a
Right.
lot of time on these. And the council or the borough assembly has a lot of different items they have to deal with. So usually the commission tries to come to an agreement that everybody can live with. And I thought you had at the time, but apparently someone came back with a different opinion.
Thank you, though, for bringing that point up for discussion,
Thank you.
Dave, because we did put a lot of time and energy.
Oh,
into it.
yeah.
We can feel that we did our job thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
We had looked at the maps, gone out to
Mm-hmm.
to the property, and assessed some needs there.
And I will say several of the assembly members did
Mhm.
contact me and did want to know what we had done and the process that we'd gone through. So it wasn't that they were
Right.
completely in the dark.
No, they weren't. I had 3 contact
Yeah.
me,
And so, I mean, they did their due diligence too. It's just, it just works better when everybody starts at the beginning of the process.
And I agree. Chris was there at both assembly meetings and spoke yesterday also. So I think
Thank
we
you,
could
Chris.
feel as a commission, planning commission, we did our job.
Okay? I do too, so.
All right, do we have a motion? Oh, let's talk about next meeting, afternoon, May 13th,
Do we
2014.
have availability?
Is your truck gonna be in that week?
No, the week before, actually.
There's something going on.
I get back from Sika theoretically.
Yes, it's available. Okay.
Yeah, I get back
so
on the,
Yeah, unless it's just long.
The next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is tentatively scheduled for May 13th, 2014. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
At 2 o'clock?
At
2
2
o'clock?
o'clock?
sure.
2 o'clock.
May 13, 1400.
At 2 p.m.
Is the recorder off?
Do we have a motion
Yeah.
to adjourn?
Yes.
And second?
Second.
There's been motion and seconded to adjourn our meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are the microphones off?
No.